Very well. Let this abomination unto the Lord begin.
Welcome to Nerd Stories and Other Geeky Rants, brought to you by 3D or 2D.com.
Engage.
It's a negative force coming in on a positive force because it's a third dimension, right? And for it to solidify or to crystallize, it has to have both elements.
This is becoming a speech.
You're the captain, sir. You're entitled.
Not entitled to ramble on about something everyone knows.
Let the geeks swell. Geeks swell. We will inherit the earth.
Geeks will inherit the earth.
You think your Commodore 64 is really neato? What kind of chip you got in there, a Dorito?
Let the nerds take over!
Okay, so welcome to episode 2 of Nerd Stories and Other Geeky Rants, or NSOGR. NSGR, yes. So today I have my co-host, James Tate. Yes. And we're doing a big deal here. The first one was kind of a small story about me camping out, and this is going to be a much bigger story. So this is us kind of geeking out and nerding about the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this is going to be a beast of a podcast, but we're going to try to get through it. Yep. All right, so we have a few different discussions or pieces I want to get into to help organize things. So first, let's go a little preface and talk about, like, when originally we heard about this happening, and, you know, the first movie, technically speaking, is the Marvel Universe's Incredible Hulk. Did you really think this was really going to play out?
No. I like, to be honest, I don't know. I heard that Incredible Hulk was tied to Iron Man. And when I first saw Iron Man, I never knew that this was going to start a universe. I just thought it was going to kind of be standalone. And then by Thor, I was like, wait a second. Are they connecting in the film? And then by Avengers, yeah, they were. So I mean, at first, I don't think really anyone suspected that they were trying to do that. And I think that even Marvel was kind of suspicious because it's never been done before.
Yeah, and okay, I remember going to see Incredible Hulk, and I liked it. I didn't think it was great, but I think it was better than the original Hulk. But then, you know, people were like, "Oh, you gotta stay in for, you know, after credit scene." It's like, what are you talking about? Because the thing we gotta remember, James, is that before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was very rare that a movie would have an after credit scene. Yeah, it was like, oh, there was an extra, you know, no one would stick around because unless it's a comedy or something, you know, 95% of the movies never had it. So you didn't have to even think about it. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll stay. It's like, Robert Downey Jr., it's like, who's that? Why are you talking to Hulk? It's like, oh, that's going to be for the next movie, Iron Man. It's like, what are you talking about, Iron Man? He's a kind of not that big of a character, but sure. And it's like, yeah, man, haven't you heard he's going to be Captain America? And then eventually they're going to do Avengers. I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, whatever. You know, they'd never joined on the movies together like that. You know, I want to see that day happen, but they've always messed it up and, you know, reboot it here or not connect it there. And I was completely cynical and skeptical that it was really going to happen. And, you know, when it started to really happen and they connected all the dots pretty well, you know, with Agent Coulson being basically the glue putting everything together, you know? Yeah. And, you know, everyone was like, okay, well, you know, Avengers won't be that good. You know, it can't be. And then it was incredible. And everyone was like, okay, they've done this. It's succeeded, and let's keep going. So, you know, no one thought. I refuse to believe that they would be able to even get there. You know, so it's just an amazing. To be honest,
I didn't know it was happening until, it happened. So, I mean, I was just like, oh,
Wow, that's never been done before.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that now, oh yeah, of course, Marvel Cinematic Universe, but like it just wasn't something that we could even think about before because comic book movies came and went.
The biggest thing we had to a franchise for superhero films at the time were like Spider-Man and like X-Men, and those films are a mess with continuity. So I mean, we went in and it's just like, wait a second, this doesn't have a bunch of like inconsistencies and things. They actually made a plot, a gigantic storyline to go to. Like they planned it all out before they made it.
Yeah, and I think when I heard that Marvel was taking over or Disney is taking over Marvel, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what that's gonna lead to because I don't know, and it actually worked out beautifully because everything is in the Disney suit. And, cause we didn't know Disney would, micromanage this or they would make bad movies or if they would allow, Marvel to make its thing. And that's basically what it done. And it's a monopoly, but a wonderful monopoly because we got lots of great movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a few good ones, but no terrible ones yet. And it's only possible because one company owns it all. Where, like you said, X-Men is controlled by Fox. Fantastic Four, for the time being, is controlled by Fox. And before, Fox also had Daredevil, Elektra, but they got that back. And then I think Fox, I don't know if they still have Ghost Rider, but I don't.
Oh, they don't.
Yeah, so they got that back.
They also got Punisher back.
Punisher back too.
Yeah, they also got was it Blade?
So all these movies were just out there. Blade had its own trilogy, Spider-Man had its trilogy, and Batman had, and they weren't connected at all. And now this movie series is going to connect, and all of them are fun, good movies, and if you haven't read the comics, you're still good. My fiance is not a really comic book reader. She's not against comic books, but she completely got into MCU because they knew how to make good movies. They're fun, and you don't have to know a huge amount of detail. You don't have to have read all of Captain America for the last 20 years to enjoy Captain America movie, So they're self-contained, and it's an amazing achievement, so we gotta just give them props. It's what they did,
I mean, let's face it, they were winging it. To be honest, this could have been a huge flop. And I mean, if the reason why other companies like Fox never did these storylines that span all these films, always focusing on how much money it makes, and Marvel was like, nope, we're gonna make the story, we're gonna plan out all these films, and hope that they do well.
Yeah, and we'll make sequels if they make money. If not, then whatever. We'll reboot it later. So it never was like a big overarching idea. And Marvel always cares because that's their bread and butter. That's what they've been doing for, 60 years now or whatever, 100 years. I don't know when Marvel Studios was founded. James? Do you know?
Yeah, Marvel was founded in the 40s, I think.
Okay. But so let's get to each individual movie in their order of release real quick and just overall thoughts. Incredible Hulk is officially the first one. But
Iron Man is the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've heard that
Iron Man was first, and then Hulk.
Okay. So Incredible Hulk is kind of okay, good movie. It's just kind of weird because now the Hulk that we have in Avengers is different than the Hulk that was in that movie.
Yeah.
But it was good.
I mean, I think they reference it's the same Hulk, just not the same actor.
Yeah, And they actually gave Hulk a enemy that was equal to him, which was the Abomination, and it worked. It wasn't. I don't think it was terrible. I liked it. I didn't hate the first Hulk as much as everyone else does, but I liked it, and I like this one more. You know, so
Yeah.
Iron Man was a big success. You know, Robert Downey Jr. was kind of a washed-up, you know, actor then, and no one really thought he could really do a big Hollywood movie again, because, you know, back in the day, I don't know if you know, but he was like all these drug charges and in and out of jail, and people thought his career was over, you know, in the late 90s and early 2000s, you know? And
Yeah.
he came roaring back with Iron Man, and everyone loved Iron Man, the original. I don't think anyone I've seen that, you know, really blasted it. And so Iron Man really does hold up really well. Iron Man 2, however, I don't think it's as bad as everyone says. I don't think it's a bad
I actually
movie.
really liked. I really liked Iron Man 2, but the reason why it did so bad was because it was actually right when they were basically writing the script for it, and then the Disney buyout happened, and then Disney came along and they were like, hey, you need to get rid of this stuff, because the original Iron Man 2 was supposed to include the Demon in the Bottle story arc, basically where Tony is battling with alcohol abuse or substance abuse, and so it was kind of going to be a depressing film. I mean, it had Mandarin in it, and it'd be similar, but it had a lot darker tone. And then they kind of just took it away and then redid it. So that's the reason why it is the way it is now.
Yeah, and people, I think it's still a decent movie. I think people really just jumped on top of it because it really set up the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think it's completely fine. It's not like, oh my God, this is awesome, but not, you know, terrible, like people make it out to be the black sheep of the whole movie series, you know?
Yeah.
So what was the next movie on the list?
The next one was Thor. I liked Thor. I thought it was interesting because it was the first time in in a Thor story where he lost his powers. I think that's been done before, but I mean like in a way that they did it. Like, okay, he lost his powers, now he's on Earth, and he kind of has to get them back. Like, I don't think that's been done before.
Uh-huh. And
it was good movie.
Yeah, Thor was one of those weird ideas because no one knew how well that could work, because a lot of the mythology of Thor is out there. It's really strange, you know?
Yeah, and I was really concerned about how are they gonna make a Thor, and then they do, and it's like, oh, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, because we're all kind of thinking the whole thing was gonna be in Asgard, and the whole thing was gonna be really strange and mythical, and you know, Vikings.
I mean, it was, but
it worked.
You know, they made it work.
And you know, the Thor movies, I like them. I don't love them, but I like them. And then Captain America, everyone's like, okay, how are they going to do this? Are they just going to go ahead and, from, like he's starting up now or what? And they did the exact perfect idea, which was to make it a period movie, make it in the 40s, give him the real origin story, and they did a great job with Captain America. It really worked perfectly.
Yeah. So that was pretty good. And then we have the Avengers.
No.
Wait. I think I'm pretty sure it was Avengers. That was next.
Okay, you're right.
I know. Avengers is next because, I don't know, they just made Avengers right after that. And then, so Avengers was pretty good. Then we get, I think that the reason why the Avengers worked was because they set up all these characters, so it could pretty much just be nonstop action. I think that's what really, because I mean, if they didn't do that, if they just started the first film with Avengers, then it's like this is Iron Man, this is Thor, this is Captain America. Like, you know the characters before you see the film, which, you know, like, it'd just be a mess if they didn't make films about them before.
Mm-hmm. But there is two characters in there, Hawkeye and Black Widow, which were not given movies, and
they weren't given movies, but they appeared in previous films. So
yeah, Black Widow was in Iron Man 2. Hawkeye was brand new though. I don't remember.
No. He was in Thor.
He was? Huh.
Yeah. He was like when he broke in to steal the Mjolnir. There was Hawkeye there, and he had a bow, and he was like ready to shoot him, and then he was called off. So he does appear. He doesn't say anything, but he appears in it.
Okay, but the famous scene with I think the scene that everyone loved from Avengers was when Hulk was just beating up on Loki.
Yeah.
And it was completely everything you would want in a summer movie, and it was a lot of fun. All the characters worked, and it was just great. It was perfect.
Yeah, it was good. It was a popcorn movie, yeah, but it worked. It was a good end to Phase 1. So now we move on to Phase 2. So in Phase 2, we start with Iron Man 3. Now, Iron Man 3 is interesting because it's the only sequel, or it's the Iron Man films are the only sequels with numbers. They're the only, in the entire Marvel movie series, they always use subtitles, which I hate, by the way, but they use numbers. So Iron Man 3 is the first one. I didn't like it. I didn't like Iron Man 3. And it wasn't just the Mandarin. I just did not like it. I thought it was stupid. It was like a weird agent movie. It wasn't Iron Man. He just acted out of character. I didn't like it.
Okay, but you didn't like it, but you still think that it's quality.
It's the worst Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's like a 5 out of 10.
Okay. Well, I really do like Iron Man 3, even though it's goofy with the kid and how they handled. I don't care about Mandarin. It doesn't matter to me. I like that it was kind of doing different. But
they did it so poorly. So I mean, they didn't even do Extremis right. So that's and then we move on to Thor: The Dark World, which is another one that people are like, about. But I liked it. I like Thor: The Dark World because I like the Dark Elves. I like the idea of like the ether and like the 9 realms and all this. It's a very lore-rich movie. It's like you get an introduction with like explaining the Dark Elves, and then like it's just all this fluff that I really like in films and worlds. So that's actually one aspect of Thor that I always really enjoyed is that when like at the beginning of every movie, Odin always gives you a story about the past. I hope they do that in Ragnarok. They better. I'm going to be mad if they don't. But that's something I really liked.
Now, Thor: Dark World is more famous because it's like, a portal the movie, because this portal is everywhere.
Yeah, I could see that. I thought that the fight with Malekith was pretty cool. It was like popping in through like different portals and like they're punching each other and stuff. It was a very unique fight. I don't think that there's ever been a fight like that in cinematic history, actually, where like people are just like bouncing between like universes and like punching each other. It's just unique. So that's pretty cool. And then like the other aspects of it, like Thor is weird because it kind of sets up its own humor in the film. Has a weird like the most famous one is Another, where he like breaks the coffee cup because he wants another one. So it's like the goofy, the Asgardian is in modern times,
Yeah.
So I liked it. There was a time where like he puts Mjolnir on a coat rack. So I mean, like just little jokes like that, you know.
Yeah, and the friends of Thor in that movie, in both the movies, are always kind of weird. You know, they're never given enough time.
Well, what's interesting about the friend character is that it always appears that they're just there. Like they're not supposed to be there, but they are. Like, and it just makes it kind of interesting because that character doesn't really do anything. So I mean, yeah. And then after that we had Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which is really pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty good film. It was kind of an intrigue. It was a political intrigue. So,
yeah, I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier because it's political. It's much more deep, and it shakes things up so big. It's a huge changer in the storyline with you know, the return of all the evil stuff that we, you know, Hydra, and breaking up S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, it was a so.
I think that was a pretty good like story altogether. I think that my only complaint with it was for the Winter Soldier. It kind of acts like one of those video game like bosses that like you don't really fight, but they show up occasionally, like wreck you and then leave. He's kind of like the Proto Man of the movie. He kind of shows up a little while, they fight, and then he disappears. And I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. It's just like the movie's called The Winter Soldier, so I mean, if you ask me, it should be like Hydra Reborn or something weird like that. Or, I don't know. It just, I liked Winter Soldier. It was cool. It's just like, again, like Winter Soldier is kind of like in there for once, I don't know, a little bit, and then he catches the shield, which was pretty cool.
And then we got Guardians of the Galaxy next, which we actually reviewed on 3D2.com together.
Yay! We did.
And it's fantastic. It's
yeah, it was pretty good.
Neither one of us expected this to be good because it's such a weird story element and totally unconnected to everything else. But it works so well because it's so out there. You know, talking tree and talking raccoon, and you know.
Yeah, it was really good.
And then that became like a massive hit. And everyone knows.
And if you ask me, like, it just shows, like, hey, this isn't never going to work or whatever. Like, you just look at it, and then now everyone likes Guardians of the Galaxy, and they're really popular characters. And, like, and to think, 4 years ago, they were introduced, and they were really obscure, you know?
Yeah, and then that leads to movies from this year, 2015, which are Avengers: Age of Ultron, which we both love, but apparently a lot of people hate online.
I actually think it's better than the first one because I think that it tried to do more things and it was trying to be more ambitious, and I like it. I like the storyline. I liked how they gave more development to both Hawkeye and Black Widow. I thought that was really cool, and they also like introduced this dynamic, like kind of a romance between Hulk or Bruce Banner and Black Widow that I felt kind of worked. And I mean, I actually liked the I know Josh Whedon like had to fight for him, but I really did like the extra scenes that he put in there, the ones with on the farm or whatever. Then the what is it? The fountain. I thought that those were cool. Like, but the thing was with the fountain is that it was cut off. So like it's kind of weird because and I've seen parodies of this where like it shows what's going on, and it's just like the one scientist guy is just like, you said you needed me, and you're just rolling around in the river. Like, there's something crazy like that, you know, because there was supposed to be stuff in there. There was supposed to be added scenes into that gap, but they were taken out, so it was just like he disappears, he takes the one guy, and then he just disappears for the rest of the film. And then, like, I thought Ultron was a pretty good villain. I think he's I think he's pretty memorable, actually. I think he's a really memorable villain, which is a problem, I will admit, is a problem in some, in not most, but some of the Marvel Climatic Universe films. They kind of have villains that are kind of like, you know, like the guy in Iron Man 3 or the guy in Iron Man 1 who are just kind of there. They wreck some stuff and then they leave. So, I mean, yeah, I thought that Ultron was pretty memorable. Like, he had a memorable personality. He was a robot. And then, like, who could forget those trailers? And, I mean, just the hype for him.
Yeah. I know I've seen a lot of comments online. I don't know if you've seen them, but a lot of people are really bashing Ultron and saying, not as good as the first one, and, you know, just saying, it's just too much stuff going on, and I don't know.
I hated that. I hated how when things got complex, they didn't like it because it wasn't stupid. Because okay, I'm not going to say the first one was stupid, but it's stupid in comparison to the second one, as far as plot goes.
Yeah, it's simple.
It's really simple and basic, and I think that that's what people wanted when they went into this film. They were like, I'm going to have another stupid popcorn film again. And then, like, they give them a plot, and they're like, oh, what is this? You know?
Yeah. And
I didn't like that.
I
didn't like how people went into the film like, oh, this is going to be a basic film, but whatever.
And leads us to the final movie, the most recent one, Ant-Man, which both of us were kind of, okay, I don't know how it's going to work out, but it worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it worked out well. It has that problem with the villain, but I mean, most standalone, let's face it, all standalone Marvel films have that problem. Guardians of the Galaxy kind of had it with Ronan, and I mean, it's just, I think, the way I used to explain it about 6 years ago when it was like Iron Man 2, was I always use the explanation, there's 3 pillars to Marvel films. There's the plot, there's the characters, and then there's the villain. And they focus more on the plot and the characters than they do the villain, so the villain always is just kind of there.
Yeah, and that's the main thing that I also wanted, next kind of topic, because a lot of people complain that all the character villains are not memorable, or they have the same powers or abilities as the main characters, so it's not as interesting. You know, the only exception they give it is Loki, because it's so evil and you like him so much, you know?
Yeah. I actually argue that there's actually a list of characters I think the villains were memorable who are kind of skipped over. Those include Red Skull, Whiplash. I thought Whiplash was pretty interesting because he was like, he got, you know, he showed, he had his own personality. Let's like, he had a bird. He was kind of like crazy and like, but he knew machines really well. I think that Malekith he had an interesting design. I think that's what made him more memorable, and like the scar on his face. And like he's really kind of weird looking. He's got like all this pale skin and like the armor and everything. And then I think that the main villain from Captain America: The Winter Soldier was kind of like those are villains who people just forget about, and then they say all villains are bad in the Marvel Climatic Universe. And so I have a problem with that. But, I mean, yeah, there are some villains who are really forgettable, like, again, the guy from Iron Man 3, or, what is it, Iron Man 1. So, I mean... Yellow
Jacket.
Yeah, Yellow Jacket was pretty bad. But, I mean, yeah, you know, if you ask me, I'd rather have a good plot and a good character than, like, a good villain. Like, I don't know. That's just me.
Now, let's kind of go into the TV shows, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not just movies, it's also TV shows. And there's 3 TV shows that are going on right now. The first one is Agent Carter, which actually takes place after the events of Captain America, and it's still a period piece. You haven't seen any Agent Carter, correct?
No.
I really like it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good period piece, and you get to know a little bit of Jarvis, and, you know, all the characters are returned. from the past. So Iron Man's father, that character is back in a big role, and it's a lot of fun. And it's just more of a spy kind of thing, getting S.H.I.E.L.D. put together, and it's not right now exactly directly aligned with everything, but it's kind of just like setting the pavement down for S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it kind of struggled for a little bit in the first season.
Well, I've only watched the first season, and it was kind of terrible. I was just like, oh man, why? This is stupid. But
So,
I mean, maybe the second and third are better, but.
Well, yeah, okay. So that's the thing. It started off rough, and then
really rough.
Yeah.
It was bad. Let's just. I mean, this Marvel Climax universe is not usually bad things, but the first season was bad. It was just I didn't know what it wanted to be. It was like testing the waters. You could tell that it was just bland, kind of. I don't know. It was just really weird. Like there's like, oh, we got to get this thing. It does this science stuff, and then like they go to this part of the world, and then they kind of run around. And then they have some really cringeworthy humor. It was just weird. It was a really weird film because it was campy.
Yeah, well, a show, but it brought back Agent Coulson from The Dead, which was a really controversial thing to do, and I think that the way they eventually explained it, I think works out well. And they try to connect it with the movies. Like they had an episode that happened right after Thor 2, where they kind of clean up the mess. But I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really didn't hit its stride until after Winter Soldier, where it literally was directly impactful to what happened in that movie, and it changed the entire show. And it was basically now focusing on everything going on with Hydra, and then eventually leading up to the Inhumans. And now I really like the show a lot. I think it's really good. So it's turned around, and how...
But I mean, the biggest problem with the show is that you have to trudge through that awful first season. You gotta, and I mean, you're pretty much dragging your feet through the entire first season. I tried to get through the first season, but it's so bad. It's so boring. It's just, oh man, please, no. Like, I mean, I don't know if many other people, like, just quit on the show because, like, the first season, but, like, oh, man, that first season, man, it's so bad. So bad.
So, but you got to give them credit, though, that it didn't leak everything that happened in Civil and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
I
guess. It just, to me, the whole concept's like they affect the movies. No, they don't. They live in the shadows of the film, Like I to be honest, I don't think that the film is ever going to mention that. I think that they'll always mention the films, and, like, they'll do it a lot, but I think Daredevil is going to show up in the films before they do. So that's saying something. And
that's
speaking of Daredevil, the next show, Daredevil, again, that's the name of the show. It had one episode. It didn't have a season. It had one episode that was bad. One. And it wasn't even that bad. It was just kind of slow. And it didn't really, and like, if you watch the second episode, then it gets really good. And that's because a bunch of factors. One, the casting is great. Second, the acting is great. And three, I think that they do a really good job on Fisk. So, there you go.
So, yeah, Daredevil, I was kind of hesitant on it because the first episode was weak. And I stick by it, and yeah, I agree. It's a really well-done show. I really like it. And it's on Netflix, so you can watch the entire season right away. You don't have to really, wait every week. And it's pretty hardcore, too, with,
It's fun. And what's interesting about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to Daredevil is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably the goofiest of all the shows and in the entire universe. Like, in the entire universe, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is definitely the goofiest. And then, like, Daredevil is the exact opposite. It's the most gritty. show, or the most gritty thing in the Marvel Climatic Universe, because they're not dealing with like cosmic threats or something. They're dealing with murder cases and like kidnaps and stuff. Real things.
Yeah, and it's really bloody, and like I think the episode that I love the most of Daredevil is the one where you get the origin story for the villain. Where you see when he was a kid, and everything that led up for him to become evil. I thought that was just brilliant because you get so much empathy for him, but at the same time he's just so evil. What's the villain called again? I forget.
You mean Fisk, right?
Fisk, yeah, because he eventually turns into another villain, I guess. What's the other villain called? Yeah, Kingpin. And everyone was kind of worried about Daredevil a little bit before because I think the movie gets a lot of bad rap. I haven't seen Daredevil, but I heard the director's version is a lot better than the regular version of the movie. I don't know.
But, I mean, it's good. So, yeah.
So, coming up, we're going to get another season of Daredevil. That's guaranteed because it was a huge hit. And then S.H.I.E.L.D. and Carter get another season. And next year we're going to have 2 movies, which is going to be...
there's going to be Civil War and Doctor Strange.
So, and even if you don't like Iron Man 3, it still was a big success money-wise. And I think most casual fans, like myself maybe, still like it. And everything has made its money back. Everything has made...
Even Ant-Man made a decent amount of money. Like, it actually, I think, made more than Hulk. So it's not the worst worst grossing Marvel film. And I mean, to be honest, they said that it did well enough for them to consider a sequel. So that's saying something.
Yeah, so... there's not a single one where everyone's like, that's complete garbage. There's not one that's completely flopped and bombed. There's not been, people disagree on the quality of Iron Man movies, I guess, 2 and 3, and, the Thor movies to an extent. But, I don't think anyone considers them complete, utter garbage that it's unwatchable and, a massive flop and it doesn't make money and, they've all succeeded. So, it's kind of one of those things where even if you don't like them that much, you still got to give them props that they're well made, and make money. So, the thing is they're going to fall. Are they going to have a movie or a TV series that completely flops?
I mean, it's possible. I think that Marvel will event. Okay, I kind of have a theory that they are going to have at least one flop. But the problem with them having a flop is they'd have to have like 6 flops in a row for them to reconsider because of how much money these films gross. It's like the snowball effect, Like it just keeps going,
So there's going to be more TV shows, right?
Yes. There's going to be Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. So those are those 3 shows they say are going to be released sometime in 2015. And they also say that depending on how well each show does, they might. They are going to make a Defenders series at the end, basically, and the Defenders is supposed to unite Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist all as a team. So what they said, basically, what Marvel has said, is that if all the shows do really well, and by really well they mean get praise like Daredevil did, then they will consider making a Defenders movie instead of a TV show. So an official movie you go to see.
Mm-hmm. That's where I think they're kind of I'm a little bit hesitant about, because having so many TV shows to juggle, not just, as a fan, but I mean, man, I don't know if I have time to watch 4 other TV shows or 3 other TV shows,
I mean, I do, but hey, I mean, to me, I think that the more Marvel, the better, because hey, that's the way it worked in the comics. You got you got this floodgate of material,
Well, yeah, and the quality so far has been worthwhile. I'm just saying,
Yeah, hey, we're gonna have a dud here and there. We might have.
Yeah.
And a dud in the Marvel Climactic Universe hasn't been too bad. But, I mean, yeah, well, we're going to have at least one that's kind of like, or one that's mixed, at least. To be honest, I think that might be, I'm not sure. But I have a feeling that while Civil War is going to do really well, it might be the same case with Age of Ultron. Like, they're going to talk about how it was too dark or how it had too many plots going, like something along those lines. People, for some reason, and this is the case for a lot of things, casual fans at least, casual fans get scared when things are complex. I'm sorry. When things are dark or complex, a casual get afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
that's where I'm kind of feeling it's like, well, because Daredevil doesn't directly align with the movies yet. I mean, kind of, sort of. Yeah. And Agent Carter is more just like a prequel to some of the stuff. But S.H.I.E.L.D. is in there, and like you said, there are the shadows in the movies, but there's still working parts in there and taking care of Hydra.
But it's always stuff like, oh, I'm actually, like they retcon it and say that they're in this. But it's never like, it's never like Iron Man is going to say, ever since Agent Carter came back, like, he's never going to do that,
Yeah, I can imagine maybe season 2 of Agent Carter, maybe they introduce, some of the stuff leading into Ant-Man, because, maybe that could be later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe, like, what they could do is with Agent Carter is, like, to be honest, I think that if they keep going on with seasons, they should actually show different time periods. I don't think that they should stay in the 40s. Like, I think that they should jump to, like, maybe the 80s, and then have, like, they're kind of old now. That'd be neat. Because that was pretty cool, though, that they appeared in the beginning of Ant-Man. And I mean, what you could do with that is you could have Hank Pym in there. So, if he was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. originally.
Yeah, that could be a good way to kind of connect those dots and to make it interesting. Now, like the Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, that kind of is a little bit worrying because it's so much there that these characters,
I don't know. To be honest, I think that really Daredevil's the only one who's going to get maybe more than one season. I mean, he's obviously getting a second one. I mean, the rest are kind of like one shot, They're going to get like 12 or 13 episodes each, to fill in their story. And then, that's kind of the way it works. And for the future of the film, I'm really looking, the film I am looking forward to, there's 2, actually. Civil War, obviously. Yeah, I wouldn't put that on the list because it's the next one. But Doctor Strange and Thor 3, definitely, I'm looking forward to. Because I've always been a huge fan of the more mystic side of Marvel. So I'm more a fan of that, the magic element, Like, technology's okay, but I like to see them try something new. And whenever they go into, like, the magic or stuff, they're always doing something unique.
Yeah. So what you said before, something that's interesting that I want to go into. Has it been confirmed that they're going to be just one-season things? Because if it is, that's going to be much easier to kind of...
Yeah, they're not... the only reason why Daredevil was originally planned to be a one-season thing. The only reason why they're making a second season was because of critical praise. So I mean, basically what they planned on, one season each, and then they all lead to Defenders. But the Daredevil did really well, so they're like, okay, we can make a second season for this one, but the rest most likely are going to be first season.
Because that could be where I don't feel intimidated by having...
That's why I don't feel intimidated, because I know there's just going to be one season, besides Daredevil, of course. And then I mean, you're going to get a lot more shows. To be honest, I think that we're going to have, I personally feel that we might have a Ghost Rider show. I think that we might get a Ghost Rider. I mean, I know it's not going to be Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider, but maybe Ghost Rider, you know?
Maybe.
Punisher
is going to be confirmed in Daredevil.
Punisher, definitely. The thing I want to see, what I really want to see, is Moon Knight. Moon Knight's kind of a weird character. He's like he's a mercenary who from Egypt. He went to Egypt one day or whatever, and basically some god told him, like, some Egyptian god was like, if you can become the aspect of the moon or something. And then, like, he's like, all right, and then he becomes Moon Knight. So, I mean, it's kind of out there. But the cool thing with Moon Knight is his thing is that he has multiple personality disorder. So, I mean, at one moment he's a really rich guy. The other moment he's, like, kind of crazy. And then the other one is kind of like a normal guy, you know. So, I mean, they could do that. In the comics, they have this interesting thing where his multiple different personalities were different superheroes. So, like, he had Captain America, he had a Wolverine, and he had a Spider-Man in his head, all arguing with each other constantly.
Okay. Now, that actually leads us to the next thing where, we have Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we still have Marvel movies that don't exist in that, which are...
Yes. I've discussed many a time how I'm tired of making that distinction. I'm just tired. I feel that when we watch Marvel films, they should be in the same continuity. I'm a very kind of same one continuity kind of person, and I think you'll find that in all series I'm like that. In Star Wars I'm like that. And especially in Marvel I'm like that. Because I think that it's important to have continuity. It's important to have one universe that you put everything into, that you make fit. I mean, right now I'm working on a project that is going to take place it's an animation project that is going to be in the same universe as another animation. And I'm working really hard on fixing plot holes and things like that. So, I mean, I'm the type of person that likes to see everything connect. So when Fox has these Fantastic Four films that do awful, I'm glad. Because I want Fantastic Four, and I want X-Men at some point. I know the X-Men is probably going to be a while. We're not going to – I actually don't think we're going to see anything from them until, like, maybe Phase 4, mid-Phase 4. I mean, in the 2020s. Mm-hmm. Because what I feel is going to happen with X-Men is Marvel's going to get to this point where they have this huge array of characters. Fox is going to be like, I'm not even. We can't even compete anymore. We've run X-Men dry. Here you go. You know. I mean, unless they reboot it, which.
No.
I don't want that. I do not want a reboot, a Fox reboot. I want them to give it back. If they decide to reboot it, you know, they'll do it right. They won't do an origin story, which actually is another topic about the Marvel Climax universe. They have gotten rid of origin stories. There is not really origin stories anymore.
To a degree.
I would argue though that there's never a time where, at least now, where the characters have to, I got to figure out my powers or something. The closest thing to that was in Ant-Man. And in Ant-Man, he was like, he just, there was a montage of him learning, and then there you go. Like that's what I think needs to be the thing with superhero films. Like, for example, they're going to have a Spider-Man film soon. It's going to be. Did you hear about what they're calling it? They actually have a name already. They're going to call it Spectacular Spider-Man. So that's all right.
Sense.
Yeah, I mean, the last one they called Amazing, so I guess people will be like, oh, Spectacular, it must be a sequel. Go to see it's different, then be like, eh. So, I mean, with the Spectacular Spider-Man, they won't have Peter being bit by the spider in that film. They might reference it. They might say, ever since I got the spider bite, or something crazy like that. But they're not going to have that initial thing. And if you ask me, that's good, because everyone knows how Spider-Man got his powers. Everyone knows now. We've seen it twice. So I think we know.
We don't know Black Panther or Captain Marvel, those, or Doctor Strange. Those characters are really unknown. So they, need to have a real, origin,
I mean,
to a degree,
Yeah, I guess. They always find their way around it, because in Guardians of the Galaxy, we don't know who Star-Lord is, but he already kind of is who he is. The real whole thing with the film was the formation of the team. I mean, all the characters in there, they didn't like, oh, I'm becoming this, and then they joined the team. No, they were all in there before they joined. So, if you ask me, that's the way that they should do it.
Yeah.
So I think what they've said that with Doctor Strange is that he will be Sorcerer Supreme. That's the thing he is when the film starts. And I think that this is pretty smart, because if you ask me, spending an entire film about him learning the ways of magic and things is going to be slow. And people aren't going to have the patience to see some neurosurgeon who got his arms broken learn some magic. I mean, that's going to be boring. So, I mean, why not make him Sorcerer Supreme already so he can go on a magic adventure? So, I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, Thor didn't start out with, oh, you need to learn to swing around in the hammer. Like, no, it didn't start out right. He started out as Thor, he lost his powers, and then he came back.
Yeah, and I see that being something that you could do, where his origin is a thing 20 minutes. The main movie is not that, where, you spend time introducing the character, you give them some idea what's going on, but you don't just spend the entire movie giving them, oh, that's how it is. You just like,
and that's the problem with a lot of origin stories, is that they do that. They focus the entire film on the origin stories.
Because I heard, multiple people have heard that watched Fantastic Four, that basically that is entirely an origin story, and like at the very end, they end it in the corniest and cheesiest way possible, and they're like, so what are we going to call this team? It's like, I don't know. How about the Fantastic? And it cuts it back. It's like, it's like, really, that's the way they're going to do it? And it's like, they could have done that a long time ago in the movie, and it's just one of those things where Fantastic Four may, okay, so Fantastic Four and X-Men are owned by Fox, and we don't know what's going to happen to Fantastic Four because it failed miserably. All the movies have not done that well, so it may go back to Marvel, and X-Men.
I personally think it is, but they're kind of Fox is going to be very. Fox has a lot of pride, so they're going to try to kind of sweep it under the rug, like, don't make a big deal about this, Marvel. We're just going to hand this over to you and be quiet about it,
And, Sony was trying not to have Spider-Man in Marvel, but after the Amazing Spider-Man movies, neither one of them was a major success. I mean, they were successful, but they weren't, billion-dollar movies like, Avengers. They are now going to be part of it, and they're going to reboot it again. And the thing is they still have a deal with Sony, so Sony's going to get some of the money off of it. And that deal is probably what Fox is watching after, so that way they know what to do with X-Men in the future, because I don't think anyone wants another origin story for X-Men, because, X-Men is just a mess. Like, you said it, and I agree completely. it's a mess because they try to do the origin again with the First Class and bring it back in the 60s, and then they decided to throw it into the modern time. So then the new X-Men, Days of Future Past, resets the movie franchise for all of the movies. And then, some of the things happen, but some of them don't. And, they can't just reboot it again. If they have to reboot it again, they have to completely start again, completely everything. And no one wants to see that,
Yeah, at least no one wants to see that from Fox. I'd argue that people might want to see that from the Marvel Climatic Universe. What I personally think is going to happen is Fox really wants a X-Men series. Now, to be honest, I think that Marvel will do the same thing it does with Sony, and they'll say, okay, you can have your series, but it has to be in the MCU, and we got to collaborate. So I don't know if Fox is going to agree to that, but I think that would be an interesting angle, because that's what Sony's doing right now. Sony owns, they share the rights. Marvel pretty much just tells them what to tie into. I think that's maybe what's going to happen. I think Fox even acknowledges that they really admire the Marvel films for being so connected. So, it's possible.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the future to all this because, yeah, it's a monopoly under Disney, but they've made it work. And that's the thing where they made it work, it makes money, and people are happy. So why not continue it? And, the X-Men movies, they make money, but people are kind of so-so on them. And, how long until people get tired of it? And they're like, all right, I'm done.
Well, the problem is that they're just going to run out of ideas. Again, Fox has said that they don't have a plan for a big universe. They just get money, and then they say, okay, we'll do a sequel. And then they figure out what they're going to do then. Marvel, on the other hand, makes the story and then worries about the money later.
Yeah. And so that's where the future is for the MCU. We think that eventually they will have a Fox deal. They already have a Sony deal. Sony has this really weird animated Spider-Man coming out soon, which I don't know how that's going to work in the universe, if that's going to be independent. But
yeah, it's going to be independent because Sony wants its own thing. But Marvel was like, you got to make it animated so that people aren't confused. So they're like, okay.
And, I don't know if a new Ghost Rider is going to come anytime soon. I don't think so. I think that might
be. I don't think so, but I think that maybe if they ever do a Ghost Rider again, it'll be a show because I don't know. So,
they might really get into certain, interesting things where we never would have imagined, things happening. They might actually do kill off Captain America just because they want to do a new.
I know.
And he'll be dead. He will be legitimately dead.
Yeah.
Not rebooted. Not.
You know that is one major thing that the Marvel strength the Marvel Climatic Universe has. They have made these films to basically they've made them in the sense that they never want to reboot them again. They don't want to. They want to keep building upon what the last film left off. And that's the reason why it works so well.
Mm-hmm.
Other companies have this problem where it's like, oh, that one didn't do too well. We might as well reboot the entire series. And fans don't like that. I don't like that. I'd rather get a really good sequel than a really good reboot. That's just the way it is,
Yeah, and some of the extended stuff that, technically speaking, Fox owns the rights to Silver Surfer because that's why they put him in Fantastic Four. But, I don't really see them really making a Silver Surfer movie by itself. That's where it could work brilliantly to, really have a Silver Surfer cameo or maybe talk about him in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie 3 or something, because that works in that intergalactic space,
Yeah, and just mentioning Galacticus is a huge thing, which Galactus is another character that Fox owns. I don't really think they'll ever use. I think that Fantastic Four and basically all its properties are going to be kind of given to Marvel. And then Marvel's going to be like, okay, cool, now we have more material.
So one other character that we haven't talked about, which I didn't know until right now, was that Namor, or the Submariner. He actually is owned by, I think apparently it's in legal mumbo jumbo, but Universal Studios. So I don't think they have any real issue with I think they'll just be like, yeah, we don't want to deal with it.
You know, interestingly enough, Namor was made an indirect mention in the background of Iron Man 2. There is a map with a bunch of dots on it, and there is a dot basically. It shows all these different possible Avengers or something. Of course, one dot's on Africa, so we now know it's confirmed basically. And then there's another dot in like the sea, and so everyone was like, "Oh, that's where Namor is." So I mean, it just goes to show you that Marvel can have those plans all the way in the future. I originally heard that they in 2008 they came up with for a summary of plots that ran up to 2028. So they're set.
Now, Namor, of course, is basically the Marvel version of Aquaman, right?
Yes.
But there's differences, of course.
Yeah, there's big differences. He's kind of sort of, he's sometimes evil because he gets mad, and then I don't know, he's just kind of a weird character.
Now, one thing that's kind of weird with a Deadpool, he's owned by Fox because it's an X-Men property, and Deadpool movie will be rated R, and that's something that, we have seen in Daredevil, which would be probably TV mature if it was on regular TV and cable or whatever. But we haven't seen a rated R MCU movie. Now, is that possible with Disney? Do they want to make sure that there's none of that, or how does that work?
As far as I'm concerned, the reason why the Deadpool movie took so long to make was because the producers of the film were like, we need this to be R. We need this to be R. They kept pushing Fox for the R rating, and then that's how they got it. They didn't get it overnight. So that's the reason why it's been in development hell for the last 4 years, because just deals with Fox. I mean, to be honest, I think that Marvel will be more lenient and they might make an R film. I just don't. There hasn't been a film that needed to be rated R yet. I can see if they made a Punisher film, or again, if they made something gritty like that, maybe even a Moon Knight film would be rated R. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of characters that Marvel could use for Phase 4. Phase 4 is a really interesting topic because we really have no idea. With all the other phases, we could guess. We could guess when it was in Phase 1 and it was Phase 2. And then we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen in Phase 3. We can make speculation, but we pretty much know what's going to happen. Phase 4, we have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen. And I mean, they could really do anything. They could bring in Namor. They can bring in Sentry, which I think would be pretty cool. They could do anything.
Okay. What do you think? Now, the Blade movies could be in there. We talked about this on the 3D show, but do you think they're really going to do that? Or do you think they're just going to...
Maybe. I think that's going to be in Phase 4, to be honest.
Okay. Because, Morbius, is part of Spider-Man, and that kind of stuff was really out there. But, Luke Cage being in there, that's where things get really kind of weird,
Yeah.
out there. So
and Iron Fist is from another... Was it? He's from a mystical realm or something. So, I mean, I don't know how that's gonna work.
But yeah, what do you think could be the first? Would it be a flop, or the first
to be honest, I think it's going to be Captain Marvel. I don't know about, like, I hope that they do Captain Marvel right, but like we've never really had a female, like a complete female lead for like a Marvel film, and I think that there's going to be kind of people that are you know, like they're kind of be like, I don't really trust you, and I guess I can actually understand the reason why people wouldn't trust it, because right now, at least in the comics, female superheroes are like really powerful ones are really annoying, and by annoying, I mean like they always write them as like, haha, I'm fighting for feminism or something. Like that's what they did with female Thor. It's BS. It's just, I hope that they don't do that. I really hope that they don't. But that's the reason why I think that could be a flop. I don't think Black Panther is going to be a flop though. I think that like people are going to see him in Civil War. It's like, oh yeah, that guy's pretty cool. I mean, I'd watch it. So I don't think that's going to be a flop. I don't even think Doctor Strange is going to be a flop. I think that it's going to bring in, it's going to have a really, it might have like a kind of a cult following at least later on, but I think that enough people are going to see it. I think it's going to be like a, kind of like an Ant-Man film, you know? Like, not a lot, but I mean, it gets enough. It gets enough to where Marvel's like, all right, you know?
Yeah, I think one of those other Marvel TV shows, or I think that's going to go down in flames. I think, I don't know which one, but I don't know if it's...
I think that Jessica Jones might be the only one that like, people are just like, but,
yeah.
You know?
And I think that's a way they could, if they commit to that and say, only one season, then people, okay, I'll watch it. But if it's like, oh, they have 3 seasons of this, you know, it's going to be way too complicated to juggle, you know.
The reason why they won't do that is because, each character, like, for example, with Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, cameos. So the only one that looks like it, to be honest, the only one that looks like its own thing or can be its own standalone series is Daredevil. That's the only reason why I think it's going to get more than one season.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit, because it's just like, you know, if you have 7 TV shows I have to juggle and watch, you know, and 4 movies a month, you know, that's where it gets like, oh man, this is a lot, and you know, who character cameoed in that? You know what I mean?
But by the 2020s, Marvel will have so much income from all these films that they can do anything. Nothing can beat them. And nothing can beat them. They would need like an onslaught of box office bombs to like dent their armor a little bit almost, you know, like from how much money, because it's a snowball effect, you know? Like this movie makes a bunch of money and this movie makes more money, you know?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about Doctor Strange, that it might be too out there for mainstream people to like, that people, you know, if they give it a chance, they'll like it, but most people will be like, this is really out there, and no, I'm done. You know, people might just say...
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
You know, maybe.
To be honest, I think that people with a name like Doctor Strange, you know what you're going into, but, I mean...
Yeah.
It's
so,
just, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the interesting thing about it is like it's kind of psychedelic. So I think that that's going to be a huge pull for people. You know, like, ooh, it's going to be colorful, you know? Or, ooh, it's going to be kind of, you know, like you're going to kind of go on a mystical trip with the film, you know? I think that'll definitely bring in the film. Like, it's not for the character maybe, but it might be for like the artsy thing.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be interesting how people will react eventually when Iron Man and Captain America and to an extent probably Thor are just phased out. They're not going to be part of the movies anymore.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see these characters kind of go away. I've heard that might try to do a Young Avengers kind of thing, or they might try to I've also heard that they might replace that. Like they won't they'll kind of do the same thing they did with Hulk, and kind of like, oh, it's a new actor, but they just act like it's the same Hulk. So I mean, to be honest, talking about that would be a good topic about this, guys. Like, what are your feelings on replacing actors? I don't have a problem with it, actually, as long as it's like the first guy's white, and then they don't change it to a black guy and never mention it again. Stuff like that, I would have a problem with. But
well, that's interesting because you did mention Thor, and Thor became a woman recently.
No, he didn't become a woman, actually.
Well, hold on, let me finish. So that's what it looked like at first, but now we know that it really Thor is the doctor, the female doctor romantic interest of Thor, and that she has cancer and she's not going to really be Thor for a long time, and that kind of thing could be interesting where they could kind of pass the torch on,
I'm actually strongly against the female Thor character, so I'm not for that. But I guess you could see that. But the reason why, the entire purpose of female Thor was a huge pull. Marvel wanted to get the feminist crowd. That's what they wanted. They wanted the feminist crowd. So it's like, here, we took away Thor's hammer and gave it to a woman. There you go. But no, it didn't work. It's not the same. And I've even heard this podcast talking about how many people actually who read the comics speculate that this is all a trick by Loki. Loki changed the requirements of Mjolnir so that this radical feminist can wield it, even though she's not worthy. And so, I mean, that could, and I mean, to be honest, I think that's the only way we're going to get the normal Thor back.
Okay, moving on. We did hear that, I guess after Civil War, isn't Bucky now the Captain America,
Yeah, kind of. I mean, he takes the place when he dies for the shirt.
So, that's something that's interesting. And then another more modern comic has had Falcon take over for Captain afterwards, and that's something interesting where you could kill off the character, pass the torch on, and, move on, but at the same time still have him around, where...
Yeah. I can see, like, you get an old Tony Stark or, like, old Bruce, what's his name? Bruce Banner. So, and, like, I don't know, old Scott Lang. So, like, you can have these characters appear that they might not, they might act as, like, mentor characters. But you can definitely have them in there.
Yeah, I think that's just part of the natural progression of movie storytelling, that some characters are going to be out, and, they kind of want to...
I could see Nick Fury or Black Widow or Hawkeye or Scarlet Witch or even Vision, like, fighting in the dust. I can see that happening. Now, in Phase 2 at least, Phase 2 has this problem, and I don't know if many people mention it, but starting with Phase 2, I kind of consider after Avengers, all the shows and things that were kind of in the Phase 2 area kind of had this problem where they killed off the character, and they think, oh, he's not really dead. Like, Coulson died, but he's not dead. Or Loki died, but he's not dead. Or Nick Fury died, but he's not dead. Like, they had this, and it was in a row almost. And I have a feeling that this might be, and I hope that this is not a recurrent thing. I'm hoping that they do this so that people think, oh, well, he's not really dead, and then he's dead. Like, I hope that they do that eventually.
Yeah, because
because when they finally kill someone off for good, for good, then people are going to be devastated. I mean, to be honest, Quicksilver was just the only reason why people don't really talk about his death or whatever is because he was only in one film. if he was a character throughout the entire like Marvel Climatic Universe, and he just died there, like people would be devastated, you know?
Yeah. So I think, they kind of got the ball rolling in that in Iron Man 3 and how it ended, but then they reconned that basically for Avengers 2. So, but I think eventually, I think Robert Downey Jr. is like, okay, I'm almost done. And I think Captain America is almost done too. He's like, the actors, So I think they could do some of that. I think, like you said, some of the characters can be just in the back burner. They don't have to be the main deal. They can, so what if Scarlet Witch is in Civil War? So what? So she's the next one. Maybe she's doing something else,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's where it gets interesting because you get the opportunity to give the characters some life. Spider-Man could be in the Civil War, but doesn't have to be in Infinity War. He could, and
he could be doing his own thing. There's a lot of characters like that who can make cameos in other shows or it's all up in the air right now. Possibilities are kind of infinite. I think that the Marvel Climatic Universe still has at least 30 more years or something crazy like that, because I don't think that this is going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know about 30, but I think at least for the next foreseeable future, it's going to be going. But you never know. Things, you may have 2 duds in a row and people start panicking, or.
I think that the only thing that's going to change, that's going to stop it, is if we have some major event worldwide. If there's a nuclear war, I don't think we're going to see more Marvel films. But I mean, if the way we see it now, the way we're going, we're going to have a lot more films. We're in it for the long haul, and I mean, I've seen these films since I was in freaking 5th or 6th grade or something. So I mean, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for these films. Like I really like them. I don't think that many of them are gonna flop. Most of them look like pretty good. The ones that are kind of like, okay, like Doctor Strange. It's like, at least he's artsy. It's an artsy movie. So yeah, there you go. I think that pretty much sums up the entire Marvel Climatic Universe as far as I'm concerned. So Fox just merged it with Marvel, make some kind of deal. I know you're not bleeding money like Sony was, but just do it, because people are going to get tired of your movies pretty soon, and you're going to run out of deals.
And so, Universal just needs to don't even try. Don't even try to make your own Nomar movie. Don't even try to get in the way of making a Hulk movie, because that's the thing. Hulk is technically, Marvel Universe, but they can't make an independent Hulk movie without Universal.
Right now, the big push is for a Planet Hulk movie. Everyone wants a Planet Hulk movie, but like Universal, like, no.
So they get out of the way. Just get out of the way. Make your money, and make your deal, and just get out of the way, because there's no point. There really is no point.
There's no point. That goes the same for Fox. Like, don't try to stop it. There's nothing stopping this thing. It's indestructible. So just give up and give it over.
Well, I wouldn't say indestructible, because you never know. Like you said, if there's a worldwide economic collapse, and
oh, it's coming. But the reason why I said 20 or 30 years is because we're heading for a war. I can't wait. But all right, guys, we're this was a pretty good podcast. I think we covered all the ground. I think that we discussed everything about the Marvel Climatic Universe, besides maybe the later films. But I have no idea what those are going to be, so I'm not going to give my predictions on them. But all right.
Yeah, I think we did great, and I think everything here is covered. We want better villains, but that's just going to come in time. You know?
Yeah, again, character and plot over villain. It's just the way it always will be.
And, you know, it will be time. There's going to be, you know, another Loki coming up one day, and I think, I hope that Thanos is as good as, you know, that's the thing that's kind of scary because they've been building up Thanos for so long that they have to, you know, but we'll see.
He's already a joke, kind of, on the internet, so I hope that, because, I mean, like, you got all these comics about, like, I gave my gem to Loki and he lost it, and then I sent another guy to get my stone, and then he stole it from me and gave it to another guy. So I mean, so I hope he's intimidated. I hope he wrecks the place. You know, I hope that Thanos is like he's devastating. You know, he's like was it Thor? Not Thor. He's Iron Man's vision bad. You know, like Iron Man's vision and Ultron. So.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on, James. This is a really good Marvel Cinematic Universe, and maybe one day we'll do a DC.
That's never going to happen.
Maybe we'll do a DC animated one. Like, if that actually kind of makes sense.
Okay, that's a lot.
Because, you know, the animated Superman, animated Batman, Justice League, that's actually a pretty, I think
that's a decent universe.
Yeah, and that would be a good podcast. And, you know, there's still an ongoing DC movie, animated movies that kind of make their own universe. But that's a whole different thing. But, yeah, I think this is a really good coverage of everything for Marvel. So thanks for listening, and see you again next time with more nerd rants and stories. Bye.
See you guys.
Okay, so that's going to conclude the podcast.
Remember to rate this podcast on iTunes and on Stitcher Radio.
Also remember to follow us at 3dor2d.com on Twitter and Facebook. And Instagram.
Please comment on the website and subscribe to us on YouTube.
Finally, I hope you enjoyed the show, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.